All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Card Talk. I'm Ryan. I'm joined by Tyler and Lou. We've got a big episode today. We're going to get into a long segment of Q&A from some of our listeners, some key questions you guys want to know the answers to in regards to different things in the hobby. But first, want to get into the NBA is back. That's big. 6 months ago, Corona happened. Sports ended. We didn't know when it was gonna resume. Went through a little 8-game stretch or so. Now we got the playoffs and want to get your guys' take on what NBA playoffs are going to be like. And then we'll get into finals predictions. I do want to see who you guys think is going to win the finals. But Lou, I know you got something on your mind here about Tyler and I, so let's get into that.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of crazy how you guys decided to go on vacation and didn't tell anybody about it. Like I would have like went down the shore. Like I love the shore. I love Cape May. You know what I mean? But instead, Tyler's in like a log cabin in the middle of nowhere. You're in some man cave over there in Kentucky, and I'm here in New Jersey. But it's fine.
Yeah. Well, if you recall 2 episodes ago, you had an incredible tan. Wonder how you got that.
Yeah, I wonder who got back from their vacation time to record the episode.
What shows more dedication, leaving vacation or bringing your podcast set up to vacation?
Bringing it to vacation. No, bringing it to vacation.
No.
I mean, we're out here, Lou.
Vacationed around the podcast.
My microphone is in a red Solo cup.
I don't even have a stand.
He doesn't have a stand, Lou. All
right, I'm going to go no stand for this episode then.
Come on. Get with the program. All right, let's dive in. NBA.
So, first game already happened. Jazz, obviously we record this in early. Jazz, Nuggets, Mitchell balling out. Jamal Murray, seems to take over the end of the game. But lots of stuff happening. We talked about this a little bit off camera, but NBA's happening. Card prices are through the roof. What's your guys' current take on that? I know we've kind of mentioned this. So, Ty, what are you thinking?
So much of the conversations we have, offline or off the podcast, and with all the craziness you mentioned 6 months ago, this whole thing, Corona happens, what's going to happen? There was like some heat around the industry, a lot of sell-offs, kind of you saw prices dip 10% and then roaring back. Here we are on opening day of playoffs. Donovan Mitchell drops 57. His card's probably going crazy. I don't own any of his. I own one Jamal Murray. It looks like, of course today, no matter what, highest by now sold. Probably today was the highest his card ever transaction. What I would just say is you have to make sure you have a form of strategy or budget, or how are you going to sustain? Are you going to make sales? When you purchase a card, what are you hoping to see happen to it? What would be great? 10x, because it's we equate it a lot. We talk about it a lot. Everyone has a story of they went to the casino and they hit big on roulette and they were up $1,000 and 4 hours later they're down 200, or they're at the blackjack table, they get hot and then they don't know what to do. And so I just say, I'm sitting here looking at a bracket and the amount that's going to happen and storylines, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, the Nuggets, Jazz, that's going to be a crazy series. You've got Chris Paul going back against the Rockets, Celtics, Sixers, Philly, Boston, great series. Tatum's going to go crazy over there. Siakam or the Raptors, the real deal. Bucks, like there's so much, but you got to have some sort of, I keep on harping on, are you thinking about this as a business, side operation? If it's fun and all that, but if you're pouring money into it, you got to think of, when am I thinking about selling? Because if you have these thoughts and strategies going in, you're going to be better prepared for when you're sitting on one Jamal Murray at an average price of $90 and then it goes off at $550. Most people are just sitting around thinking they're rich. You got to sell or you got to buy. And if you're thinking about what are your finals predictions, how's that going to play out? Is Anthony Davis going to go crazy? LeBron only plays at 70% during the regular season. All those things. I just implore people to approach these things strategically. As you go through the playoffs.
I think one of the interesting things is if you're heavily invested in the market and you've got Kawhi and Luka and Giannis and LeBron and you've got Siakam and Tatum and you've got Murray and you've got Karis LeVert, you got one of all these guys. Well, only one guy can really win. One team's going to win. So that's the other thing is that if you're expecting Luka and all these guys to continue to rise, that might not be the case. I mean, if Luka comes out and puts up a triple-double tonight against the Clippers, which could totally happen. His stuff's going to continue to rise. He's a star. But Karis LeVert 3 weeks from now is probably at home.
Yeah. And also to the realized thing of if you have a Luka in front of you right now, you're staring at it and you're saying, Rye, you might know best. What is it go off right now on eBay? $2,000?
2 to 2,200.
2 to 2,200.
Luka's at 1,900 right now.
Great. Luka 1,900. You're staring at it and saying, this is a $1,900 card. This is a $1,900 card. If I wanted to sell it right now, it's a $1,900 card. Well, in 10 days, if they get swept 4-0, you're not getting 1,900 until probably
exactly
8 months, right? Christmas, whatever. But
so are you in it for it to be 1,900 in 2 years, or are you trying to get the max out of it now and then wait on it later? Because you can get 1,900, like you said, you can get 1,900 now, or we can wait 6 weeks and it be 1,400. Are you willing to let it go down for it to go up later, or are you a sell now and then buy and reinvest later?
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here is that everyone needs to have a plan, and it can't just be, I'm going to buy this card right now and just wait for it to go up. Because what does go up mean? Like you're saying, Tyler, every person has a different answer to that question. In the same way that someone says to us, like, hey, what should I do with this card? It's like, hey, man or girl, I don't know how much you paid for that card. I would love to help you, but only you have the final answer to how much you want to make on that card. And if you can't go into buying a card saying to yourself, all right, I paid $1,000 for this Luka, I'm willing to sell it when it gets to 2,000. And of course, when it gets to 2,000 right now, you're not going to look at it and be like, cool, then 100% it's gone. It's a judgment, but you still have to have that number in mind. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're never going to be able to make a decision, and you're going to be paralyzed about it, which is a waste of energy.
Yep. We've said before, the buying is the easier decision. Once you own it, then you got to think, am I holding or am I selling?
Yep.
To buy
what is your plan?
Buying. Yep. Yeah. So you're going to see that a lot during the playoffs. You can see spikes. You can see players go crazy. There's going to be upsets. Someone's going to go. TJ Warren, right? Like primed for hope. You could see him going against, the Bucks. Drops 40 in the quarters against the Bucks. There's no guarantee TJ Warren's going to be some big hot shot on opening day going into next year.
And we talked about this a couple, like one of the first episodes is we haven't really seen a loss in cards really over the last 6 months, right? Like 10% drop as soon as like COVID happens, everybody panics, a lot of panic selling, but then it's consistently gone up and gone up and gone up and gone up. And as a whole, like there hasn't really been a lot of like losses. So what happens when, the Nets lose, or when Gary Trent's not playing, or when Damian Lillard's not playing, or Jamal Murray goes home, right? Because again, only one team's going to win the finals.
Knee blows out again.
So there's only one team that can win. And I think this is going to show a lot in the next couple of weeks. So having a plan and have some sort of action behind that is key.
Yeah. And even I would there's I think a lot about the individuals that are getting into this big time. And I would say just try to sell something for your own learnings. Listen.
Go through the process.
Go through the process. Like all those things you got to know, and you got to go through the reps, and there's value in a lot of that. And so I think once the day your team or the person you're knocked out, then you got to be willing to sell for a little bit less or hold on. Just have strategy. What
else is funny? How many people do you think have purchased cards? And this is not a shot. This is people just don't know, right? How many people have bought a card in the last 4 months and don't have a single piece of shipping material to ship the card?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We got to do
little
these
stuff like
content
that
around best materials to use for shipping.
Yep.
So before we move on to our Q&A segment, let's get finals predictions. Lou, who you got?
I am going to go Raptors, Clippers finals.
Interesting.
If I was betting money,
I have a lot to prove on the Raptors.
If I was betting money, that's what it would be.
Yeah, I think the Raptors have so much to prove, and like Lowry is such a guy who's like, I can do this kind of thing, and I think he's one of the guys who can step up here and surprise some people. And then of course, I think the Clippers are just the best team in the West. So
yeah, if again. Wager, that seems like the obvious answer. Clippers are deep. They got the best two-way player in basketball. I mean, they got PG. I mean, they're rolling. I'm gonna go on a limb here. I want my guy LeBron to win, so I'm gonna go old school here. I'm going Lakers Celtics. I want to see Tatum make it. So I'm gonna go Celtics Lakers.
Interesting. I don't know, but I'm gonna go with
I know.
with I got the Nuggets and the Lakers playing each other in the Western Conference.
I was like, that can't happen.
And I got the Nuggets
Interesting.
going to the chip.
That's a lot of Michael Porter Jr.
I got the
fans
Nuggets
built into that
going
answer.
to the chip because they got depth. They're a really deep
Who in the East?
team. And in the East, I have the Bucks. I think we're going to get. I think everyone's sleeping on them. I think their defense is unreal. I think guys are going to hit big shots. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my man George Hill, he's been waiting. He's been grinding. I think he's ready. I think their coach has a lot of history of choking, and I think Giannis is going to be his time.
There's a lot of
keep going crazy, and I think the Nuggets Bucks is going to be a underwhelming from a media like who's in it storyline, but it's going to be some damn good basketball.
Lou, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to get your guys' opinion.
Yep.
The best matchup in the finals for potential card values, Bucks Lakers.
Yeah, or
values?
Celtics Lakers.
I'm just thinking.
I think the most
Giannis
interesting
or LeBron would win. That would really catapult their stuff.
The prices would be crazy. But what do you think is the most interesting, like weird price thing? Because it could be like,
well, that's
Mavs.
why I think Celtics, because I think like Jaylen Brown all of a sudden will be like, one of those guys people aren't talking about, and then we'll just go crazy. Obviously,
like
Tatum.
Mavs Heat would be like a crazy finals. Like imagine what Lucas cards would do if he's in the finals.
I think the Mavs are going to take it 6 or 7 games with the Clippers personally.
I don't think they're going to win. I'm going to
control basketball games.
Swept the broom.
I think they've lost so many close games. They're at least going to get to the close games every single time.
I think the Blazers Lakers one's going.
There's a lot of negativity around the Bucks right now too, so I don't want to like overdo this.
Which is why I'm saying fuck.
Yeah, you're going the other way. I get it. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people feel like Giannis is like going to fold, which is very strange to me.
Yeah. No doubt.
About to win back-to-back MVPs, you would assume. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in the playoffs. So
LeBron should win the MVP.
He should, but I would assume Giannis is going to win it. All right, so now we're going to get into our extended mailbag section. This is going to be questions submitted by you, the listeners. If you want to submit a question for us to answer on the show, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram at CardTalkPod, or submit a question via email to cardtalkpod@gmail.com. All your questions coming up right after the break.
Got a question from Steven_Rosenthal. What's the last buy that got you pumped? Right?
I'll go first.
Cool.
I'll go first. So the last buy that got me pumped was last night at approximately 1:15 a.m. I was searching eBay for raw 2018 Patrick Mahomes cards, 2018 Prizm Mahomes, because I was looking. The raw prices are, I don't want to give away the numbers, but the raw prices are about 75 to 90 right now, and PSA 10s were in the 300 range at this exact second. So I was thinking if I buy the raw cards, I can get them graded for 20 to 30 bucks or whatever, and then flip the 10s. But someone had a silver listed accidentally in a lot of them. He had a lot of 2, and he just listed them as Patrick Mahomes 2018 Prizm. And if you look at the picture, it's not shiny because the angle of the picture, so it just looks like a regular one. And so I scooped that up last night for $70. So I was pretty fired up about that.
That's a steal.
Yeah.
That might be the play. That might be the play of the week.
Yeah, you've been listening to Rye.
That's what I'm talking about. These lessons are getting, learned. I'm loving it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm here for right there. Lou finding underpriced assets on eBay. I'm in.
I was
pumped. Respect. I was so pumped.
I think the thing I was pumped about the most was probably the Zion Genesis I purchased. I started the Genesis set from Mosaic Basketball. So it's a 300 card set, and the Genesis Parallels and Mosaic are only available in retail. And I think I'm going to go after I'm going after the entire set. And I wanted to start it out with buying the best one, because I knew if I didn't buy the best one, I would never really commit to it. So I just went out and bought the Zion just to really be like, hey, I'm committed to this set long term. So the Zion was probably the last thing I was really, really pumped about. Mahomes National Treasures was up there. But for me, it was probably the Zion Genesis, because I know what that leads to. But Ty, what about you?
So mine was, and it's funny you say that about the set. That's kind of how I approach Pokemon outside of the Hollows, but the 1999 set, like that's how I have taken that approach. Start with the hardest, the low pops, because now I'm committed, and the rest is kind of like fringe and ancillary.
Yep.
For me, it was I picked up a 03 Topps Chrome Refractor 9 BGS 9.5 with 10 centering and 9.5s on the rest. Carmelo Anthony. So I'm a big Carmelo fan. Massive Carmelo fan. Grew up on Big East basketball. What he did at Syracuse was crazy. Then got drafted. I thought he got snubbed for Rookie of the Year because of the LeBron hype. Hasn't had playoff performances, but even just this past week, he's number 16 on the all-time NBA scoring list. And I just think he's wildly disrespected in terms of his career. And I think he will go down as a Hall of Fame player. And if he can sneak, I think he's got 2 or 3 one-year contracts left. And I just felt good based on seeing, the rise in vintage. I think he sits on the fringe. I think he's going to be culturally relevant long-term. I think he's got to stay like with his Jordan brand positioning. And it's a refractor. And for the price, I was just like, 03 Topps Chrome Refractor, no matter what, I think will go up. And then when you put Carmelo where he sits in that class, at my next, I think I'm going to pick up some more Carmelo. And the Blazers, they're going to be playing likely the Lakers. It's likely that they'll play the Lakers because they'll either be the 8 seed and play the Suns or be the 9 seed and play the Grizzlies as the play-in. I see them getting through, and then you got Carmelo, LeBron. You're gonna have all the TV drama that comes with that, the pregame interviews, having them da. So that was a purchase I was pumped about. So Steven Rosenthal, thank you for that question.
Brian, you want to grab one?
Yeah, so I have one, and this is a question that came up a lot on the response list. So I'm just gonna pick a version of one of them because this was consistent, but it's from Luck Off 12, appears to be an Andrew Luck guy, but it says, what potential pitfalls could happen to the card market for NFL if COVID ends the season early? I think this is big. I saw a lot of this question on here about sports cards and seasons not ending. We talked about it on a recent podcast. It was episode 6 about baseball, right? What happens if baseball ends early? So if there's no football, what does that look like for cards?
I think the same rules apply to the baseball. Like, I think there's going to be certain guys like a Mahomes, like a Lamar, Kyler. Drew Lock is another one, I think, where the hype now associated with those guys would continue to build as people wait for them to start playing. But guys who have been more quote unquote disappointing, like a Darnold or a Baker, those ones would then just go down. Unfortunately, it's just the way it would go. I think if you're going to go another year, there'll be hype associated with some guys where it'll continue to grow. And then for the guys who have been quote unquote disappointing so far, their stuff will go down significantly.
Yeah, I think you'll see stagnation first and foremost. I think you'll see everything just kind of chill. You'll see some sell-off. And then I think you'll see, like you talked about, the stars, the studs, the blue chips, particularly in the quarterback position, start to gain steam as you go into whatever that next season looks like. So much is unknown about everything and the future of everything right now. But what I can say with confidence is at some point they will play NFL. It is such a big business. There's so many people involved.
Yep.
They will be back on the field. They will be back playing football.
Yep.
How they go about that, I'm not sure. But do I know that Patrick Mahomes is going to be in big playoff games again in the future? I do.
So Lou, I agree a lot with Tyler there. I think that's important. Is the NFL is a billions dollars. I mean, there's billions of dollars in the NFL. I think that's key here. Is they're gonna do everything they can to get something done, and I expect them to play. I think about the NFL, if it weren't to happen, if they cancel it early, is right. I think you go into a point where whatever you did last matters. So you come off, Mahomes ends the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl MVP. His stuff's going to be hot. The guys that didn't do so hot in the end, very similar to basketball with Zion, right? Zion's resting, right? People are concerned about his weight. So his stuff's going to go down for a little bit. if the season ends and we don't play again till next August, that's a longer certainty for waiting. I expect a lot of stuff to come down a little bit longer than what happened originally with COVID. So when COVID happened, you had to sell off for about a week, and then stuff started rising because people were at home with nothing else to do. If the football doesn't play, I would expect a little bit more of a lag time on those cards coming back up. I agree with Tyler. There would be a sell-off, even on the bigger things, people wanting to get out of those investments. But eventually, as we get closer to the season, they will come back. I just expect the lag time for those cards to rebound to be longer than it was originally when, COVID shut everything down the first time. So definitely some risk in football right now, as they aren't, they're not playing currently. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because we're getting close to when they would start playing.
Yeah, I think all signs point to they're going to at least start. And it seems like the numbers have been low. Obviously, that can change as more guys are in the building, and as time goes on. Yeah, and traveling will be a factor as well. But it seems that they're going to definitely try to get something done. Question I had actually came from Ryan Harwood. Shout out Ryan Harwood. He was asking last night, how do you compare? His original question was, can I compare current Prizm silvers to regular Topps Chrome? The answer to that question is no, because the fair comparison would be a Prizm base to a Topps Chrome base, because you do a Prizm silver to a Topps Chrome refractor. But the argument, which I hadn't considered previously, was if the population reports on Topps Chrome is so low, the only thing to compare it to is Prizm silver, which I hadn't considered before. I typically don't think about comparisons in terms of population reports, but talk about that a little bit with the Topps Chrome refractors or the Topps Chrome base to the Prizm silver, and how those prices differ. I'm going to put my cat in the other room, but I'm going to listen.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I'd never really thought about it like that before either, where you have a Topps Chrome rookie with a much lower pop, and then a Prizm silver with a higher pop, where they're almost comparable compared to
he was saying like Prizm. He was saying Prizm base, because the populations are so high, it's not fair to compare to a Topps Chrome. It was like Luka Prizm base versus KD Topps Chrome base, basically, was the conversation.
Yeah, and that's interesting. The hobby doesn't look at it like that. I think that's my concern, is the hobby views it like you said, a Prizm-based Luka versus a Topps Chrome-based Luka, a Durant refractor versus a Luka silver. I think those get brought up, even though the comparison might be better stated as a Luka silver 10 versus a Durant Chrome 10. But yeah, I'm not sure. I've never really thought about it like that. I think it's an interesting debate, because production was much, much lower back then. The cards weren't produced like they are now. So the Durant rookies and the refractors are going to be, I would assume, a much, much lower pop than either one of the Luka cards. I would assume even the base 10's got to be lower than the Luka silver 10.
100%. Yeah. That's where the energy comes from, which makes sense to me. It was just something that we were talking about and wanted to get your thoughts on. Yeah,
very interesting. All right, so someone said, let me see here. We talked about this earlier when Tyler brought it up about Melo, but Cabs Cards, so it's KABS Cards, said our 03 Topps base and Chrome of Dwayne Wade and Carmelo undervalued at this point comparatively to LeBron stuff.
Yeah, I wish Tyler was here for that. I think Wade and Carmelo will have post-basketball careers. And with that comes them being on TV, comes documentaries, comes them appearing in documentaries, and all of those things will lead to card prices reacting accordingly. So I don't think it's fair to say undervalued compared to LeBron, because that's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
But do I think those cards have value? 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. They're comparatively to LeBron. No, LeBron is on a whole different level.
Yeah.
But I think there is room to grow with those. They're going to get in the Hall of Fame. That will increase them when they're again, cultural relevance matters on these cards and on these players. So both of those guys are going to get into the Hall of Fame. And Tyler brought up a good point earlier that 03, 04 Chrome will always be relevant. 03, 04 Topps will always be relevant because LeBron's in there. And then people are like, well, who else is in the set? Oh, yeah, two other Hall of Famers. I don't assume. I mean, does Bosch get in?
Is Bosch in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I mean, are you going to put
think
3?
so.
Yeah, I would assume not, but that's an interesting debate. But if Bosch gets in, you got 3 other Hall of Famers besides LeBron, if not 2 other Hall of Famers besides LeBron. That set is going to be relevant forever. So, yeah, I think those cards definitely have a long-term play. They've already gone up a lot recently, but what hasn't? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to follow that long-term.
Got it. Here's an interesting one. This is a very like base level question, but I think it's important. Can you provide definitions to the terms used in collecting when it comes to wax, breaks, razzes? So Ryan, just explain those 3 things for people who are newer and that are collecting. What do those 3 things mean?
Okay, so wax is basically another term for unopened product. So a blaster box, a hobby box, a something unopened that is in regards to packs, right? So there's packs, there's something inside that you open that is unknown in the hobby. So typically in my story, it's referred to as some sort of hobby box is what we refer to as wax. The next thing is going to be a break. We talked about this on episode 1 a lot, but essentially it's a group breaker. So we do group breaks ourselves. And what that would be is like we've got 2 random boxes worth, let's say $900 total for math. You get a team, Tyler gets a team, and 28 others get an NBA, purchase a spot. And that gets 30 spots. It's like $30 per spot. So then we'll randomize the order or randomize the teams, randomize the names in the break, which is opening the product. And everybody gets a random team assigned to them for $30. We open those boxes, and any cards that you got of your randomly assigned team is shipped out to you. Right. So it's a 1 for basketball this year, which is really hot. It's a 1 in 30 shot at Zion Williamson. So there are other different types of breaks where you can do pick your team. So you could just buy the Pelicans for a lot more money. So let's say $300 because the Pelicans would be expensive, or you could buy a lesser team like, the Jazz for $15 or $10 or $5, whatever it may be. So there's different ways to go about it, but essentially the way we've run them is random teams where you pay a fraction of the box cost for one random team in that particular box. That's how that works. And then razzes. So what that is that's essentially like some sort of raffle. It's basically you've got most of them are going to be like 10 spots. So you take the price of a card, let's say it's $100, you divide it by 10 spots, and then you get $10 per spot. So you buy a spot, I buy a spot, Tyler buys a spot, and 7 other people buy spots, and that's how we get the 10 spots. We each pay $10. You the person who owns the card will have someone randomize the list. Person on top after X amount of times gets that card. So you could win a card for a fraction of the price. Essentially, it's another form of gambling, right? You pay a fraction of the cost, but you could walk away with nothing because if there's 10 spots and everybody only buys one spot, 9 people are going to lose $10, but somebody's going to win it for a tenth of what it's worth.
Yep.
And then, go ahead.
Nope, keep going.
I was going to say someone mentioned hit drafts as well. So this is in like higher end products. So like National Treasures basketball is like $4,500 a box. So there's 10 cards in a box. So what you could do is everybody pays $450. You open the box and then you randomize the list. So if there's 10 of us, we randomize the list. Whoever's in the first spot gets the first pick out of all 10 cards. Whoever's in second gets the second pick.
That's crazy.
Their remaining cards. So if you get the last spot, you're going to get the worst card for $450. That doesn't bode well for you, I promise. But if you get the one and you hit a Zion patch auto worth $75,000, you did very, very well for a fraction of what the box cost. So it's essentially like subsidizing the box where everybody pays a fraction of it to get a 1 in 10. You could do a Raz for a whole box. We pay $450 and one person wins the whole box, or $450 per spot and everybody gets one card. So those are more the common terms in terms of Razes, breaking, or box breaks, hit drafts, and then wax.
Yeah, I would also say recently, last couple of weeks, we've put out a bunch of stuff on 137pm.com. We have a pretty big article, like a big guide to sports cards, which I think would be very useful for people, and I hope they check it out. Absolutely. I've read that, and it's very, 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 very insightful. A lot of questions I get asked on a daily basis about what is this? Where do I sell? What do I buy?
every different thing about the hobby is on that article. So especially if you're new, it is a great article to check out. So I got a question, Lou, from it's SC_IG_, and it said, if you had to put $10,000 into any player in any sport right now, who would it be and why?
$10,000 into any player in any sport. I've
got 3, and one of them isn't a sport.
One of them isn't a sport. Can you go first while I think about it?
Yes. So there's 3 that come to mind. So I'm not going to pick one. I might narrow this down, but the 3 that come to mind initially are 1, Patrick Mahomes. At what he's done at his age and the trajectory he's on as the face of the NFL, he owns part of the Royals. He's already set up for success at such a young age. An MVP, Super Bowl win, Super Bowl MVP, part owner of the Royals, $500 million. His cards comparatively to basketball are significantly underpriced. Like his Immaculate RPA sells for $2,000. That's what a Luka PSA 10 Prizm base sells for. That's a 10,000 pop card. Mahomes is the face of the NFL, and we argued this a couple weeks ago, and I said Brady's a safer buy. But after you really sat down and looked, I think Mahomes is one guy that intrigues me a lot because he's already won. He's already set himself up for success by winning Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl win, and an MVP.
Yeah, his Prizm base cards are the same price as Giannis, and I love Giannis. Everyone loves Giannis. He's infinitely more successful than Giannis has been so far in his career.
And that doesn't mean Giannis won't be successful, but Mahomes has already done it. He's already won. He is the face of the NFL. The second one that comes to mind is Pulisic. Superstar trajectory, doing well for Chelsea. The World Cup comes to America in 2026. The soccer market continues to rise. Pulisic is a very intriguing play to me. Soccer market is hot, but I still think has room to grow, especially as Pulisic is the best young player in America and has been in some time. I mean, I'm not sure the U.S. has ever had a star end up in EPL that quickly. I don't believe
exceed in EPL that quickly.
Yeah, great point. So Pulisic is one that intrigues me there. And then the third one, to me, is Charizard. We've talked about Pokemon a lot, right? But with the 25th anniversary next year, and Jeremy Padower mentioned it a couple weeks ago, with the IP being so early in Pokemon, they've never been passed down from generation to generation to generation. These cards are collected. There's low populations on them. So if I'm picking 3, Mahomes is up there, Pulisic is up there, and Charizard's up there. I think for all different reasons. But if I'm putting 10 grand, I'm picking between those 3. So that would be my answer.
Yep. Yeah. So the first thing that came to mind for me was Pikachu Yellow Cheeks. Those first edition PSA 9s and 10s are, maybe a couple thousand for a 10 at this point, and then less for a 9. So I would think in there, because I love Pokemon, I think Pikachu's an iconic figure, and I think those cards are affordable at that price range. And then I would say I'd be very interested in buying Juan Soto. I truly believe Juan Soto is going to be a very important figure in baseball for the next 5 to 10 years. And then the other guy I would think about is LeBron. I think when you're buying LeBron, what you're buying into with LeBron is you're buying into the Michael Jordan of this generation, whether that comes in the form of 2003 Bowman Chromes or that comes in the form of 2004 Topps base. Like I think any kind of LeBron card you're buying will continue to appreciate over time. And as the card market grows in the hottest market in cards, which is basketball, LeBron cards are going to continue to rise significantly. Now, with all that said, everyone should continue to do their own research. I'm sure the answer differs from person to person. Me and Ryan had different answers, and I'm sure there's 10 people who listened to this podcast just now and said, like, why aren't you buying Jack Hughes or like some sort of like hockey player or something? So make sure you're doing your own research. Please, as always, like we always say, don't buy something just because we're saying it. Please do your own research as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are just our opinions. These are just guesses. We might be completely wrong on all 5 of the guys we just named. So yeah, definitely do your own research. So you have a question ready?
Let me find another one. Thoughts on investing in raw cards to get graded? This personally is a high top of mind thought for me, but I would love to hear it from you as well. That came from @CincySlabs.
It is the single best thing you can do in cards right now, for sure. I sent in 159 to PSA yesterday. I sent in 152 to PSA last week. I sent in 540 to PSA the week before, and I had just below 1,000 at the end of June that were already there. You can purchase, we talked about it with the Mahomes earlier. You can purchase a Mahomes card for $70, spend $25 or $30 to grade it, wait a couple weeks, and it comes back as a 9 worth $40 more, worst case. Or if it tens, comes back, you're making $200. So if you could get to the point where you can afford to have the money in the cards tied up at PSA or Beckett or SGC, wherever you decide to grade, I think it's great. It's hard not to do. It's hard not to justify that. I'm not saying send in every single card, right? 8s are not worth grading 9 out of 10 times. They're just not. So you have to know what you're looking for. But there are people out there that run group submissions that look at cards all day. I used to do it for a living. I used to do it all the time. You can look at a card, see a scratch here, an indent here, lights, magnifying glasses. Those things will tell you what the card kind of condition the card's in. But if you have 9s and 10s, can afford to sit on the money and the cards for a long time, or however long it takes to get them back, it is a no-brainer. You're sending in – I sent in Mbappe silvers to PSA back in May that were, $100 raw? I mean, they're $6,000 PSA 10s right now.
What are they 9s? Let's talk about that too.
I'm not sure. I just know the last couple did 61 as 10s. I would assume $2,500, $3,000, half.
So the number, I want people to hear those numbers. I want them to think about them. I'm going to get into my answer as well, but there's a lot to think about. But if you're buying, the prices are different now, so that this doesn't apply specifically to Mbappe. But you were buying 2018 Panini Prizm World Cup silvers of Mbappe for $100 raw. You looked at them on eBay before you bought them. You said, that looks clean. You bought it. It came to your store. You wiped it down. You cleaned it, everything like that. You made sure you sent it in. And the worst case, not worst case, you know what it looks like. So if you're saying you get a 9 on that card, you're getting at least $2,500. So that's $125 all into you to get $2,500 back. And if it tens, it's $6,000. Now, so those multipliers are crazy. Keep going.
And I think this is an important point to talk about a lot of different things right here. So one, you have to, not everybody can afford to sit on a $125 card for 6 months, because it might not
but
be.
They also don't need to, by the way.
What do you mean?
I think if you buy a $100 Trae Young card right now, raw, you send it into PSA, you get it graded, it comes back a 9, you sell it for $250 the day you get it back.
I mean, I sent that card in March and I still don't have it. So I'm saying, it's out of your control, right?
Yes,
if you have a $250 card budget and you spend $250 on Mbappe and then you come out of pocket more for grading, not everybody can afford to have those cards set at PSA that long. So if your budget's smaller, maybe you start with $5 cards, spend $15 to grade in bulk, right? Because $25 is 20 day. So you spend $15 to get it back in January at this point. That might be a smarter play it now, right? Lou and I didn't do this overnight to where we just can afford to spend, $1,000 on grading and have the cards sit there for months. That's different. So I think that's important to also point out, though, that Mbappe cards weren't $6,000 as PSA 10s when I sent them in. I'm not buying raw cards for $100 that are PSA 10s. They were $300 or $400 PSA 10s at the time. Those cards appreciate, right? Like LeBron Prizm base PSA 10s were probably $75 to $100, and I sent in 3 of those months ago. So not everything appreciates like that. That's a one-off situation. But as the market is hot and as cards continue to go up, grading is a great way to encase cards, which protects them, makes it easier to sell them because somebody knows what kind of grade they are, a 9 or a 10. So I'm big on the grading, but again, just not everybody can afford to send in 500 cards, 200 cards, 50 cards and wait on them for a long time, because it's outside of your control. It's outside of my control. With PSA, or SGC or BGS, you just don't know when you're going to get them back.
Yep. I want to talk through my story a little bit because I am a person who could not have been more anti-grading until like 90 days ago. I was hardcore. I never want to buy a raw card. I never want to have it graded because this is my ignorance. I don't have the eye for that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I buy a raw card. I think it looks good. I give it to PSA. It comes back to me as 7. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. Like, but I work with someone who does group submissions. And so what I did was I spent all in my cost for my 12 cards was $340 something. It was a couple of bronze. It was couple Daniel Jones. It was a $34 KD 2012 Prizm, a $40 Lamar optic, things like that. I sent them to a group grader. He took a look at them for me and he submitted them. I was paying $20 per card. And I got back 7 of my 11 cards that I submitted were 10s. So I'm taking my $500 investment after grading, and I'm going to turn that $500 in 30 days into probably $3,000, $3,400. And then you just pile that up over time. So that's where you're saying it starts at. You buy $5 card, you submit them for $15, and you sell them for $80. If you can start that process and start it rolling, that's how you build up the capital to get into the 20-day subs and the 10-day subs where you can really start making money. And go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's a tip here, though, that for people that are new especially, that I think is important and will save a lot of people headaches. I think you don't want to assume that every raw card on eBay is gradable. Yeah. And it's not the seller's fault if it's not. Mm-hmm. So if a card has one soft corner, it doesn't necessarily mean the card is worth no money at all, right? Grading is big in the hobby now, but that's why card stores, that's why card shows, that's why things like that are good, because you can see the card in person and you can determine then, hey, this card doesn't look like it has any major flaws. That's a better purchase, right? So if you're buying cards on eBay, please note that a lot of sellers are selling cards that are, might be PSA 8s, might be PSA 9s. Not every card is a PSA 10. So don't go on eBay expecting every single card you're purchasing raw to be a 10. That is not the case. And I would say at least half of the time, that's not going to be the case for sure. Mm-hmm. So just be cautious that when you buy on eBay, not every card you buy is going to gem.
And I would recommend people to get better at understanding, because what I did was how I learned how to get a general sense of what's good and bad is I was going on eBay and I was looking at people doing grading, and they were looking at their cards and they were explaining what they look for. And that gave me the knowledge of when I'm looking on eBay. I'm like, all right, cool. I look for corners. I check out surfaces. I try to see centering from eBay. And that's how I make my decisions on grading. Yep. So that was a pretty good little piece on grading there. I was excited about that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Let's do a couple more.
All right. So I just had a good one. Yeah, this is a good one. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. It's just a bunch of letters. It's KXND or KXNGDZY. But it says, why does Select not get as much love as Prizm? He said, I think they're cooler than Prizm.
A lot of people think that, myself included. I personally believe, I would love to hear from you on this. My personal belief is, in terms of how things sell, it's Prizm, and then it's Optic, and then it's Select. Is that fair in terms of volume, sales volume?
I think the Optic Select debate has grown closer than it has in the past. But I would say it's flip a coin. Select or Optic. I think if we looked at Optic Hollow, like the one thing about Select is Select has a courtside, a premier, and
it's a little confusing.
Yeah, there's 3 different variation rookies of,
and then there's base and then there's silver of those.
That's what I'm saying. There's a base rookie and a silver in color of premier level, concourse, and courtside for basketball. So there's 3 different ones, whereas Prizm has a rookie and a rookie variation, and then Optic has just the rookie. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, it's probably a fair assumption to say Optic is second, and that might be why with multiple variations. But thoughts on why that is?
Yeah, I think the reason that is that the hobby has decided that Prizm is the go-to card. That just is how things go. Generally speaking, the hobby decides about something, and that's where the card goes. And then the secondary cards, they go as those cards go. So they don't go for the same price, but I mean in terms of like as the price trends up on a Prizm, the Optic and the Select is to follow. within Select, we were saying, like, for football, I'm going to use football because that's what I'm thinking about most recently, is field level, concourse level, and then base. The field level tends to be the most premium of those cards. And I am of the belief, same as this person, that the field level silver and the field level and the concourse is a much nicer card than a Prizm base, and definitely with an optic. Optic's just a headshot. So the reason they sell for less, and the reason why they sell less often, is because the Prizm is the base rookie, and right now with all the added eyes, people are just going for what they know and what they're hearing about, and that's Prizm. So that's the reason for that. But I personally am a big fan of Select, as you can see right here.
I definitely love Select. I agree with you there. I think the thing about Prizm is it had a 3-year head start on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Prizm basketball came out in 2012, 2013, when Topps didn't have a license anymore, so there was no Topps Chrome basketball. Prizm basketball replaced Chrome, right? Everything in the 90s with the refractors, the Jordan craze, and then you get LeBron, his Topps Chrome refractor, and then Topps Chrome goes away. Prizm was the first thing that replaced it, right? It was shiny. It was, again, that chrome-like feel. And it also happens to be one of the best basketball classes ever because it has 2 draft classes in it, since there was a strike in basketball. So you've got 11-12 and 12-13 in one class, lots of names, first year Prizm. I think Prizm having that head start for 3 years was a big factor in that.
Was there no Select or Optic that year?
Optic didn't come out until 15-16, and Select, I don't think Select first year was 14-15. Okay. 14-15, which would have been, because Giannis doesn't have Select, right? No, yeah, they do. 13-14.
He has Select.
So Select was ahead 1 year later, and then Optic was 2 years later, 3 years later, because Optic's first year was 15-16, and then right, 15-16, or is it 16-17? I think it's 16-17.
It's 16-17 because the first Optic year is the LeBron with Kobe on it that I think about a lot.
And then. Yeah, so 16-17. So yeah, Optic.
There's 2012 Select, bro. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I guess Anthony Davis does have a rookie on it. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think what it is just Prizm has become like the flagship product, and that's just where the energy goes, Yeah,
I know. I guess, man, I totally forgot that they had 12-13 Select basketball. But now that you say that, I know Anthony Davis has a patch auto in there.
This is for Tyler because he's back. In the soccer market, who would you recommend looking into that is not a big name player? Tyler, we've already prefaced that this is just our personal opinions, investment advice. Everyone should do their own research. But who is not a big name in soccer right now that you would be considering?
So big name in soccer to the mass market. I think Leroy Sané is really interesting. Just transferred, stud, kind of had a towards ACL, then had a falling out at Man City a little bit because they knew.
Can you give us some background on him? Because the
only thing I know about Sané is that he was very fast in FIFA.
He's a beast, young kid, German. He didn't, to my understanding, he did not. He wasn't on the World Cup team. He was left off the last World Cup team. Germany was going through some changes. He was a young stud at City, got hurt. Pep had to make some changes. He never really got fully back into the squad. He's now over at Bayern. And Bayern is a monster club. But because the Bundesliga is not necessarily the Premier League or La Liga or Serie A, it kind of gets tucked to the side. But he is an incredible talent, young, fast winger. Jadon Sancho, all the attention's on him. He's not even at Dortmund's not as big as Bayern. So I think Leroy Sané is one. I also think Phil Foden is another for Man City, center midfielder, young stud. Didn't get much time early, but has started to emerge. And with David Silva moving out of City, he's coming in. I think those two for sure. Leroy Sané. And then Bruno Fernandes, he's a little bit older. Midfielder. Strikers typically, do more. The thing is, international success, winning a World Cup is I think, bigger than winning a Super Bowl. That's why you're seeing Mbappe go, right? He is 21 and he's won it all. And so the rest is kind of table stakes, and he might win another. So when I think about, where Bruno's Portugal, He's going to have, now he's going to get a lot of attention because you got Euro Cup coming up and World Cup coming up. He's going to be alongside Cristiano. Can they make something happen? Sane, Germany. But I would say I like Leroy Sane and Phil Foden as two young guys. Sane, I think, fell out of the heat because he got hurt. Then he wasn't playing at City. Now he's made a transfer. Bayern's arguably the hottest club in the world right now.
And our last question comes to us from eBay_1of1. It says, what are the flagship rookies in all sports? So Young Guns in hockey, Prizm, etc.
Mm-hmm. So for baseball, it's going to be your minor leaguers is going to be their Bowman Chrome first. So what that means is every year there's 3 different releases within Bowman, either your Bowman Draft, your Bowman Baseball, or your Bowman Chrome. Those will be your minors. For Major League Baseball, it'll be the Topps flagship product. So whether that's Series 1, Series 2, or Update will be your 3 flagship baseball rookies. Basketball will be Prizm. And then I'll defer to you guys on soccer and other sports.
Okay, so reframe the question for me. The question is, what's the flagship rookie product across all sports?
For each sport.
So it's kind of hard. Like, are we talking from today going forward? I just want to frame the question up right, because
we're talking in the current market right now. If X rookie has a card, what is their card to get?
Cool. Taking over basketball, I just want to get into this with you, Rye, a little bit. There's a real world where I think 3 years from now, I could see Mosaic being the answer over Prizm. Just
Mosaic's taken a pretty significant dip in recent weeks. I'll say
it has.
Yeah,
it has. Just because of what I would imagine that they're going to release something that has a shorter print run. Prizm is like gone there. Now, like really, like there's a lot of print happening. Obviously, Luka was huge and Zion was huge, but I don't think they knew Luka was going to be that huge before they printed that product. They just printed a lot, and so basketball right now it's Prizm. But then again, this next class that's coming up, who knows what that's going to look like? Obviously, this was the first year of Mosaic. I think Panini is going to want to continue to build that product out. So that they have an alternative to Prizm for Mosaic. Soccer's interesting because it's new. Like Prizm just got the Premier League, so I think that you'll start to see that the Prizm Premier League product move a little bit more. But at the same time, a lot of these guys are UK, and Panini UK does earlier sticker releases. I think you're going to start to see much more development and understanding around that. There's also the way that soccer is so fragmented is you play in your league. So Topps has Bundesliga, Premier League is Prizm. I think Panini has Serie A as well and La Liga, but they haven't put out strict products to my understanding. It could be wrong, but Chronicles, they did that first one where it was all 3. So I think La Liga, the newer guys, and it's really all over the place, because I just saw a Frankie de Jong Barcelona La Liga Panini product that had a rookie stamp on it, and that's just incorrect in my opinion, because he played at Ajax for many years. Like, he made a great Champions League run at Ajax, and then to say that his rookie card is at Barcelona is wrong. So,
but does he not have an Ajax card?
My gut says there's a sticker out there. I haven't looked at it much.
Yeah, but
so that's where the rookie oftentimes comes in, is if you have no cards, it's your rookie card because you don't have any other cards.
Yeah, but if you look at it right here,
not saying that you shouldn't have one that's earlier, they just never made one.
And the market is the market, right? This is a sticker with my homie Quarantine Gene. And that the market is deciding that. But quickly the Prizm is flying up, and the Prizm Silver. This is a Prizm Silver. These are almost trading at the same. Neither have a rookie stamp to them. But if this is in existence, take the Frankie de Jong. If this is in existence for Frankie, and then they print something that came out 2 years later and has a rookie stamp on it,
I still think the flagship product is where it comes in, though, because Topps Chrome has the EPL, Prizm has the Premier League and the World Cup stuff. So my
point is, I think that the market is not the decision's not out on soccer yet.
There's still flagship products though.
There is, but there's flagship products, but that doesn't mean that the market is just going to assume.
I'm going to lean a little bit more with Tyler on this, where soccer's so new in the game. I don't know if we've set the market for the flagship on that. I agree with Lou that there are Chrome, there are Premier, there are different products, but I'm not sure we've got a long enough tenure with soccer products coming out where we can say that this one is for sure set. Because to Tyler's point, everybody, some people want the sticker, some people want the card, because stickers are much more collected in soccer. Whereas I would rather have the select rookie of Mbappe. Tyler might rather have the sticker. So I think it'll be interesting to watch, because the soccer market's obviously exploded and they're going to continue to produce more product.
Yeah.
So
I think new. It's really new. So Mason Greenwood, sticker, and then he was in Chronicles, the Court Kings Chronicles. And he also was rookie ticket Chronicles. So like, there's a real argument to be said, what is the Greenwood? And I don't think the jury's out yet. And I don't know what the premier product, the flagship product is, because is it his team sticker? Is it this? Chronicles came out way later. Is it the Court Kings insert from Chronicles that's going to be seen as his rookie? I'm not sure. So I would just say, be thoughtful about the bets you're making in newer, because at the same time, the way that development happens in soccer, there isn't a draft. There's no like, this is your first year playing professional. You can be on the Greenwood made some appearances. He came up in different league cups and whatnot where he got an appearance in. You don't do that in NBA. Maybe, okay, you might be on a G League team. I think you're going to start to see more of that development side of stuff, where G League, and then you come up on like a 10-day and go back and forth. But if someone comes up on a 10-day in the NBA, and then you're getting like a Prizm late insert, like the Nun Prizm, right? That they just did in Chronicles. Like, is that his rookie? Or is it next year when he,
it's the update thing, for sure.
Right. But you're going to start to see a lot more of that, I think, in terms of the G League. Someone goes to the G League, they're not necessarily a rookie. They come up on a 10-day. That's kind of the soccer right now. So I don't have an answer other than that. There's a lot of innovation happening right now. There's going to be a lot of new product coming out in soccer, and you got to be thoughtful.
I think there'll be, just real quick, just to throw out my alternate opinion, there's going to be a lot of innovation and new stuff, but also things remain the same, where people are going to look for the same thing that they buy for everything else. Like, people automatically just buy Prizm for a reason in basketball and football. And I think the same thing's going to happen.
You're seeing it with the 2014 World Cup. Like, to me, I'm not that interested in Cristiano 2014 World Cup. To me, it's like a middle of a career card for him. But
I think people say Prizm. I want to buy Prizm.
It's his first Prizm.
I want to buy Topps Chrome.
Blah, blah, blah. I hear you.
So getting back to the point of the conversation, I think we would say hockey, Young Guns rookies. Those are in Upper Deck Series 1 or Upper Deck Series 2. There's two different products. In basketball, Prizm basketball rookies. That is the rookie for basketball currently. Football, I think we would say the same thing. It's Prizm football. There isn't a better football brand for key rookies than Prizm. So Prizm's going to do football and basketball. Baseball, Lou, I think if we had to pick,
it'd be Topps flagship.
You see, I would go Bowman. So I'm intrigued by that. I would have said Bowman Chrome. Which one sells higher, a Tatis Bowman Chrome PSA 10 or a Tatis flagship PSA 10?
Tatis flagship PSA 10 Series 2 right now is trading at about $300. So I also think as time goes on, as they get more in their careers, the flagship becomes more and more valuable over time. So that's why I always say the flagship.
And the interesting thing about the flagship is a lot of minor leaguers get traded and are in a different team jersey in the Bowman Chrome cards. So Tatis is on a White Sox jersey in that, but he's in the flagship Topps product. He's a Padre, which is where he's at now and where he's succeeding. So as crazy as it sounds, jersey on the team matters.
So I'm looking it up right now. A Tatis Bowman Chrome, the last one went for $925. That just blew my mind. Okay, sorry.
And even back to the soccer about the jersey, right? Most soccer players on their rookie are in a different club where they got developed sticker, then they go to their club, but then they also have international. Got to take it.
Yeah, that's where soccer gets weird. 100%. Okay, so I take it back. Bowman for now. I think as you get later into your career, the Topps flagship is what remains, but when you first come up, your Bowman clearly pops off. The fact that his top PSA 2 is $300 and his Bowman Chrome is $900
value.
That is.
And I think we see this a lot in the hobby, and we've talked about this before. I know we have. The main card gets so big, the second best thing raises up with it, right? So the average consumer can't afford the Bowman Chrome 10, so they go for the Topps 10. So the Topps 10 will continue to rise as the Bowman Chrome 10 becomes unaffordable or unobtainable to so many because it's so expensive.
Yep, and I also think back to your point about the team jerseys thing. As Fernando Tatis grows in the Major League Baseball into the personality that he is, people are going to continue to associate him with the Padres, and him being in that blue Padres jersey will matter.
Yep. So very, very interesting. So basketball, football, baseball, hockey, and then soccer still to be determined. So that was a good little discussion about flagship rookies then.
So just to wrap it up, we did a bunch of Q&A here today. I thought that was super fun. I had a lot of fun answering Q&A stuff. So hopefully people enjoyed it. If they didn't enjoy it, please tell us. If they did enjoy it, we're going to keep trying to do these.
All right, and that was our Q&A, our extended mailbag. So appreciate everyone for submitting questions. Again, if you want to submit questions for us to answer, reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter. It's at Card Talk Pod, or you can send us an email to cardtalkpod@gmail.com. So last little segment of the week. We do this every week on this show. It's just going to be our latest launch, the upcoming releases for this week for sports cards and Pokemon as well. A couple different things coming out this week. Get your guys' opinion on a few. You got Archives 2020 Baseball. You got the one of the premium brands in hockey, Ultimate Collection, one of the last products for the 1920 class. You've got Leaf Best of Multi-Sport Premium Edition, which is a premium repack product from Leaf. And then you have Certified Football 2020. So I think I'm most intrigued by football. Again, I'm much more of a player in the football market. Patch autos of Burrow, Tua, those guys, different things like that. But Lou, Ty, any thoughts?
Archive Baseball, does that have Robert autos or Roberts autos in there and all those guys? Or
I haven't seen the checklist. I would assume there's going to be rookie autos of him as well as some of the older/retired/ Hall of Fame players.
Nice. So yeah, that'll be cool for me.
Yeah, anything a Robert at this point. I made a play on some. Yeah, Robert, Tatis. There's all. I mean, Bo Bichette's hitting the ball well. A lot of.
He got hurt.
Yeah, a lot of stars in baseball. Ty, anything pique your interest?
Pokemon, Carmelo. I'm hype. I made that Carmelo play. I think Carmelo LeBron's a big story. I think Carmelo LeBron, Chris Paul still being in this thing. I think that Thunder Rocket series will be tight. I'm generally excited. Champions League.
Ty, you mentioned that triple with Wade, Melo, and LeBron. I saw Lefko tagged Wade, and D Wade reposted it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of like, for our age group, like those were the guys. Yeah. Those were the guys. And I think it'll draft off the, I'm not going to sit here and say it's Bird, Magic, Johnson, like Dr. J, but that I think the 3 in a card is going to give that some room. And those guys, I think all 3 will have epic post careers and do stuff together, which will be neat.
Yeah, interesting. I would be curious, Ty. You mentioned the Bird, Magic, Dr. J. Yeah. How many rookie cards are there with triples where all 3 guys made the Hall of Fame?
Yeah,
not many. That might be the only.
Not
2.
Many. Very interesting. So,
yep. There's another one in that set that's Bosch too.
Yeah, that's the one that I like. I like the Bosch one.
And is that D Wade, Bosch, LeBron? Because they played together.
No,
that's why you like it.
Melo. No, it's Melo. It's LeBron, Melo.
There's
Bosch.
one from Matrix that's LeBron, Wade, and Bosch that blew up when they ended up in Miami together.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so that is all we have for this week's episode. I'm going to get back to my vacation. Ty, I hope you do the same. Lou, I hope you continue to enjoy your apartment.
I will continue to enjoy my Bulbasaur PSA 9 first edition sale. That's going to punch you in the mouth.
No comment.